Good afternoon, and welcome to Candid Conversations with me, Linda Burhans. And with me, I have today Mary Fridley and Nancy Nelson. And Mary and I met a little while back, and Mary is on the faculty of the Eastside Institute in New York City, one of my most favorite places in the world. And she's the co-creator and leader of The Joy of Dementia. You've got to be kidding. And she also is the coordinator of Reimagining Dementia, a creative coalition for justice. So welcome, ladies.
Welcome. We're glad to be here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's thrilling to be here. And it's always lovely to be, anytime I'm with Nancy is always a good day. So
Thank you for that.
We could just end here and I'd be fine.
Oh, that's a heart warmer.
So, Mary, tell us a little bit about your mission.
Well, just to speak a little bit about the Reimagining Dementia Coalition, whose full name is the Reimagining Dementia, a creative coalition for justice. I mean, on one hand, the mission, I guess, not to be simple-minded, but it's kind of embodied in the title, although I will flesh it out a bit. And of course, Nancy is a member and leader of the coalition as well, and I'm eager for her to tell her story and her experience with the coalition. But I mean, it was just to go through some of the facts and figures. We are a coalition of members, individual members. We have over 650 now from about, I would say 27, 28 countries around the world.
That's fabulous.
It is, and I think the response has been tremendously heartening. I often say the coalition was born, in some sense it was born out of COVID. I know that COVID has obviously wrought much destruction on much of the world, and it's heartbreaking. And I think it's also served as, at least in our case, for kind of motivation for people to come together. And most immediately, it was when COVID first hit in 2020. And, the immediate impact was on our aging citizens around the world. And certainly in particular, people living with dementia who were just more vulnerable. And it was just a devastating loss. And in many ways, an unnecessary loss. I think that's what was as galvanizing as anything. So I think it's funny, it's not as if the way that we treat older people or people living with dementia is new. I mean, kind of finding out that in fact the conditions in many of the facilities and places of care were just awful.
Yeah.
But I think COVID, in many ways, and I don't think just in terms of dementia, certainly, kind of drew back the curtain and allowed people to see that in a way that I think we hadn't, in a way, collectively as a world, as a country, seen before.
Well, I talk about there were gifts of COVID.
There are gifts of COVID, definitely. And honestly, I think having to rely on Zoom is one of those gifts.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no way in the world we would have a 650-member coalition of people around the world if not for Zoom.
Well, for myself, I was doing live support groups before COVID.
Yes.
They said they wanted me to do them on Zoom, and I'm like, I don't want to do a support group on Zoom. I want to meet with the people. But now I have people in my support group from all over the United States, Canada, and the United Kingdom.
Exactly. And I think it's been a life-saving form of community. And in a way, I come from the last 40 years I've spent building community. And so I believe very strongly that it is the most powerful way of moving forward. So when, during COVID and many, many people were upset by what they were seeing. I was not alone. My partner at that time, Susan Masad, was certainly not alone. But both she and I, have a long history of being community organizers and activists. So our immediate response is, okay, now's the time to move. But sometimes, if you will, history offers you openings that you couldn't have seen or moved in on before, and this seemed like one of them. Now, you may discover that you were wrong, but it certainly seemed like an opening that it would just be unethical, it would just be a real shame to not move into.
Right.
So we put out a call through The Joy of Dementia, You Gotta Be Kidding, which is a workshop series that she and I had been leading for probably about 3 or 4 years prior to COVID. We had met a lot of just wonderfully innovative, compassionate, daring, risk-taking people who were really working so hard to, reimagine dementia in whatever ways that looked. People living with dementia, care partners, academics, artists, medical and healthcare professionals, etc. And fortunately, they responded, and we were formally launched. We had produced a call to action, which we will be available, I'm sure, to anyone listening to this. But we formally launched in September of 2020. We are now, I guess, about a year and a half old now, roughly. You lose track of time, particularly during the pandemic. And as I said, we have grown. And we have, I think, one of the things we have heard back from those who have joined us is how thrilled and excited and just grateful they are for finally of having a home for people who do want to take risks and go up against this kind of god-awful biomedical paradigm and model that has shaped and I think distorted dementia and what it is, and completely erased the real live human beings who are grappling with it. And not only people living with dementia like Nancy, but all of us who just, who share a common humanity, who don't believe anyone should be erased just because they don't fit into some kind of preconceived norm of what it is to be a human being. And that's a lot of the work that I do relative to Joy of Dementia, but also I think the Reimagining Dementia Coalition has embraced that. And this will, I'll say this by way of ending, we can always talk more about it. I mean, the things that I've loved about it is from the get-go, we remain a very grassroots oriented coalition. We consciously didn't go after organizational partners. We wanted to be independent in that way, and we wanted our members, and we wanted it to start from the grassroots because in my view, and I think history bears this out, that's where real change comes from. And that's where, in a way, I was talking to someone the other day that, and right now, there's often, in a sense, I think we're probably on the fringe of this movement still, of the conversation about dementia. But as somebody who's been on the fringe for a good deal of my professional life, I'm very proud of that because that is throughout history. That's where the motivation for change comes from. It might then be embraced by people in power, and that's great. It can lead to very important changes. I mean, look at Social Security, the Civil Rights Movement. I mean, everything that we know and embrace today. So we're in a way we're a proud fringe outfit who's growing, and I think that gap between what's considered the right way to talk about dementia and that kind of, again, that biomedically oriented model. I think the gap between that and those of us and many more who've been working a lot longer than this and I have is closing. And again, I think that's, to me, that says one of the reasons I know this is because the coalition exists. And we wouldn't have existed 5 years ago. I don't think that's, in terms of people saying, being able to take a radically different, to project a radically different approach and to say, no, we need and can do better. And we need and have to leverage our collective resources, talents, passions, successes, failures, whatever it is, to make sure that the humanity of dementia is a full part of, is able to enter center stage and get the attention that deserves.
So explain to our listeners exactly what it is and how they could be involved.
Well, it is people can join. And again, we have a website, www.reimaginingdementia.com. And you go on, it's very easy to join. It takes a minute. It's free. And the level of involvement is up to you. We obviously would love for people to join us in as actively as they can, but it's not a condition. But really, it's a way of saying, I think that this is important and I want to add my voice to this effort, period. That's what it is.
Yeah.
That's what it means to be a member. And then the other thing that we're doing, what grew out of this last year and a half of work, and particularly over the last 6 months, is we created a song and video campaign called Let's Reimagine. And it's a wonderful, and again, I hope people will have a chance to hear it. It was developed by our members working closely with a Grammy Award-winning musician, Simon Law, who kind of led us through that process. It was very international. It was all done over Zoom. It was a remarkably creative process. And we did it by way of, we wanted to give people a way to introduce, let's reimagine. We can reimagine.
Right.
Not just dementia, but so many other areas of our lives if we come together and we have the support and the tools and the approaches that make that possible. And that's what we're really about. And so one of the things we're asking everyone, regardless of whether you're a member of the coalition, I mean, we're not the only people reimagining dementia, to use it to let people in your life, your family, your friends, your community, your church, your synagogue, whatever, that, hey, there's a new movement afoot.
Yeah.
There's a lot of folks who aren't going to sit by anymore and allow the scientists and the doctors, and I love scientists and doctors. Many of my friends really are scientists and doctors, but that framing, that model, it's no longer, it's not usable. It's not helpful. It doesn't help people living with dementia, anyone grow, develop, continue to create and thrive in their lives. And that's what we need. So I would love now, and Nancy, I would love to hear, obviously I've said what I've said, but I would love to hear your experiences of it.
Well, I would love to tell you and all of your listeners. In 2013, I was diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's. And in 2017, I was re-diagnosed with mild cognitive impairment. In neither case did I own the title. So it doesn't really make any difference. Title it what you will. And I took on a mission, and my mission was to end up in a graceful and loving community for people that care for us, caregivers that care for us in a way that we won't understand if we don't go to support groups that allow both sides to talk, which also the Reimagining Dementia Coalition was a breath of fresh air for me, because I'm having trouble, as you could see, staying on and getting attached to podcasts and all of those things as one of the things that I go through. And, my very first interaction with Mary and the coalition was that I was a no-show. No call, no show. I worked in the airline industry. That was not a good thing.
No.
And so I've never been with such kindness, because we all who've been diagnosed, I'm sure, have been with someone that says, "Where are you? Are you coming?" And that doesn't help. That just adds to the anxiety. No. And the coalition doesn't do that. I haven't met anyone within the coalition that does anything like that. And so if they were warm and they were understanding, and I was hours late when I came to the party and said, "I don't know what happened. It went away. I got it on my calendar." But so I think, to know that you have a soft place to fall, and we all are missing in action sometimes with the diagnosis, such as it is. And we need to know that it's okay. We need to know it's okay. And the coalition has done that. Reimagining Dementia has done that, and in so many varying ways. And so, and I'm awed at what Mary and the coalition have done. And this song is marvelous. Let's reimagine. You find yourself humming to it and you don't want to hear me sing, so humming's good.
Right.
Can we hear it?
Pardon?
Sure. What's involved in, I would have to bring it up and all that. Is that possible? Or I know we're live, so I don't want to.
Why don't you work on that while Nancy's talking to us?
Okay, I will bring that up.
You can be missing.
Right. I'll be the one missing in action now.
You will be the one, yes. So I have dedicated, really, it's been a blessing. I almost hate to say it's been a joy to get a diagnosis such as this, but it is in so many ways, because there isn't a day that goes by that I don't find myself saying, thank you. I did not think of that. And gosh, I every day see people that are so much worse off than I. And, we can sit and be a pity party if we want to, but it doesn't get us where we want to be. And part of it is early diagnosis, and part of it is turning around and saying, hey, okay, so I messed up, right?
Right. And surrounding yourself with like-minded people.
Exactly. And when you get a coalition as big as 650 people, somebody's listening. Isn't that a wonderful thing, Linda? And thank you for allowing us to come on and talk, because Mary and I can talk.
It's funny. I think I figured out a way to do this, but before we introduce the song, I just wanted to pick up on something Nancy said, because I mean, on one hand, I'm very touched by her remarking on our kindness and I think we have worked very, very hard to create the coalition as a place where everyone belongs. But the belonging is because we're all involved in creating what it is we're belonging to.
And everybody wants to belong.
Yeah, and it's not like there's this kind of top-down organization that you have to find a way to fit into. We are the coalition. We're building it. It's not going to be more or less than what we then together can create, which I think is a new experience. On the other hand, I'm always struck, and this is why I feel so given to and why I love this work so much. Everyone needs to be in environments where they're supported to give what they are able to give. It's not just people with dementia who feel like they have nothing to contribute because they're of whatever impairment, whatever life circumstance, whatever is going on. I mean, I can't tell you. I think that's why we often feel so alone and isolated, and just because I don't know, we have to fit into some kind of norm. And those are expectations. I mean, you see it in the classroom, you see it in life, you see it that somehow you're expected to be a certain way. And if you're not that way, then yes, you're pretty much told you don't belong. You have nothing to give. But what are we saying to ourselves? So if anything, for me, working in the dementia arena, which I did not ever expect to do, I didn't have a long-standing relationship with it. We just kind of came into this, but it has taught me so much about how much the dementia experience have to teach us. And then if we would embrace it, we would be such better people, and we could be much more giving and supportive of each other, regardless of what's happening in our lives. So I think that's just, I feel so strongly about that. And as I am continuing to feel passionate, let me see if I can share the screen. I don't know if this is going to happen because I've never used this system before. So I will tell you, I don't know if it's going to work. This may not work. Let me try playing it. Yeah. We just have to leave people with a link. Okay. But I do have it up. So let's see if it works. Okay. And of course, people should look at the video, the link anyway, because what they're not going to see here is the video, which is extraordinary.
And that is very powerful. The video is powerful.
The power of the video. But let's play a little bit of the song. Okay. And it starts very low. I've turned my sound up as loud as I can. Can you all hear it? Okay. No. Yeah. I just don't know enough about it. Okay.
right, don't worry about it. We'll have the link and we'll put it in
We'll have the
there.
link. But basically, it's just, and one of the things I was most touched by, and Nancy was among those who took the lead in this, is really from day one, the design of the song was to inspire anyone who wanted to reimagine. And it wasn't just about people living with dementia. And there are millions and millions of people living with dementia, but there are a lot of people, ordinary people around the world who are trying to reimagine how they can move forward.
Right. Just human beings trying to figure it out.
So we want to inspire them because they don't get a lot of support or inspiration. So this was really that. And so that's why I feel so strongly, introduce the song to people. At least it will allow them to go, oh, maybe something else is possible. Here are these people, and they're much like us. We're not no more or less, and they're doing something. They came.
It might just strike them as, I just never looked at it that way. This is a different way to look at it. This is a different way to approach it.
No, it's true, and it's hard. You can't. What's true is, it's hard to imagine or reimagine if you're. Reimagining has everything to do with the breadth of your experience.
Right.
So if you give people new experiences, whatever they are, then their capacity to imagine grows exponentially. But you can't imagine what you don't know. Like you've got to be exposed to it. So I think we're also part of an effort to expose people to something else and let them take it where they take it. And the responses have been lovely. Just lovely.
Nancy, what's your favorite part of it?
My favorite part of the song or the experience?
Both.
Okay. So the favorite part of the song is that it really, the word reimagine has never been, you don't ever hear that from the doctor's lips, your ears, and thereafter. You don't ever hear just reimagine. Now, I will tell you that my father, when I first saw my father, and he had dementia and he did not know who I was, and his fist was in my face and he was angry and he was speaking, but not so that I could understand. And I felt like I had caused it. I felt like I was the one that was doing this to him. And the nurse at the time in the community said, well, you just got to learn to love him differently. And, it wasn't enough. You know what I mean? It just wasn't enough. And so if we could, from the very beginning, from the doctor's office, his lips, if we could hear, listen, this is the diagnosis. It's only a diagnosis. And there's so many things and so many places that you can go. Go learn about what this is and then come back to me and let's make a plan together. We don't hear that very often.
No, we don't.
But
you know what happens? I bring mom to the doctor. The doctor says, mom has dementia. Here's some medicine. Come back in 6 months.
Well, okay. So that's exactly what they said to me. And I said, you know what? This is just me. No, thank you. I don't know enough.
Right.
And I don't know enough today. So, but it's personal for everyone.
Yeah, we all need an education.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I also think,
and we all need a tribe. That's what I call it.
I was going to use that word a minute ago. Yes, we do. And the coalition is a tribe, if you will.
Yeah, and I think, sorry, go ahead, Nancy.
No, I was just going to say it's diverse in that it's got people with a diagnosis, people caring for the people with a diagnosis, people that are disassociated but are aware in care communities. I mean, so we're talking a lot of people.
Yeah.
Yes, we're talking a lot of people.
Yeah.
I mean, it's funny. I mean, invariably, one of the biggest educations on my part, because my mom died of late-stage dementia, but she was never formally diagnosed. So I really didn't go through a lot of the medical stuff. And I must say, it shocked me to hear how, and again, my partner at the time, Susan Masad, who unfortunately passed away this past November, but she was a 50-year, she'd practiced for 50 years as a doctor. So I also learned a lot from her. But I must say, I was shocked by this particular response that Nancy's talking and you're talking about. But then, I was in a conversation with a colleague the other day, and they were talking about this phenomenon of people living with dementia and Nancy, I don't know if you've ever experienced this, they'll make a presentation or they'll do whatever. And invariably someone in the profession, psychologists, doctors, whoever, say, oh, they couldn't possibly have dementia because they present too well. And part of me goes, okay, in this world, who's going to make up having dementia? Like,
right.
And just part of me goes, it seems absurd on the face of it. I don't want to be simple-minded, but I do think it's such a kind of a glaring expose of like, what are we so wed to this approach and model and lens that we would not only, so in a way, people living with dementia can't win. So if you have, quote, if it's believed you have dementia, then you're dehumanized and ignored. But then again, if you have dementia, but you're living well and you're able to, if you will, present,
you don't
be making it up. So
like, nothing wrong with you.
And I think that's why. But on the other hand, and knowing Susan, and I really have a lot of I know a lot of doctors. On the other hand, I think it's our responsibility as a coalition and other forces to grow big enough, bold enough, visible enough, so that those professionals who do want to do something besides tell someone to come back in 6 months know that we're here. And right now, most don't, because you've got to be able to see something.
Yes.
You've got to be able to, it's got to have a certain legitimacy. It's got to have a certain presence before people go, oh yeah. So I would love for all the doctors in the world to send us the people living with dementia who they don't know what to do with.
Yeah.
And I mean, because I think a lot of them I think they're pained by the fact that they don't have a lot to offer, because they don't. They can't. I mean, it's not that they can't treat the medical conditions that might arise in the person, but for dementia, quad dementia, they don't have a lot to offer, and that's real.
Right.
So I would rather them move that in a positive direction and say, okay, here's my prescription.
Exactly.
And join this coalition or go take an art class or whatever they want to do.
Exactly.
But so I think I accept on behalf of the coalition and our work in Joy of Dementia, I take responsibility for that. Right now, I don't think there are a lot of options. So it's not as if I don't believe they're just ignoring us. You know what I mean?
Well, you're working it, girlfriend, that's for sure.
Well, we need some new tools and some new approaches and some new ways of going about this. And I think
we need to spread the word.
We need to spread the word. And I think that's what I'm just, oh gosh, I can't tell you how wonderful it is to just keep every day, new people are signing up and saying, hey, I'm here. I'm with you.
Fabulous.
I care about this.
Ladies, what's the last thing you want our listeners to hear?
Look fear in the face. If you get a diagnosis, turn right around, physically turn around and look it in the face and say, I can do this. I can do this. I am empowering myself to look, read, listen, and discern what you're hearing. Yeah. Because so many people are wasting their lives by not feeling like they have options, and we do have options. Let's reimagine one of them.
Thank you, Nancy.
I mean, I guess the only other to add to that, join us. And I don't mean that because I want to just do a plug for the coalition. I love the coalition. But join us in the sense that I think there's a growing community of people around the world who are taking risks and doing something new. So join us, if only because it puts you in a better position to be able to say to that doctor or your friend or your family member who then encounters dementia in their lives, and all of us will, period. hey, I've got a place you can go that you can continue living, and you're
Yeah.
going to have a lot of fun.
Yeah.
This is not, it is not the tragedy narrative that we've all been led to believe.
No.
So that's why I say join us. Do
That's
something.
why I say everybody wants a purpose and everybody wants to belong.
Yes.
That's
There's
Exactly.
no reason we can't do that.
Right. Yes.
So
Right on.
thank you, ladies. I'll put all
Thank
the
you.
information and the information of the show, the links and everything. It was great to meet you, Nancy.
Thank you. You
Mary.
also. You also.
As always, it's great chatting, and we'll have the big conference coming up May 3rd, 3rd, 4th,
Yes.
and 5th.
Right.
So I'm
Thank
looking
you.
forward.
And
Thanks,
thank you for the
ladies. Have a delicious
invitation.
day.
Bye now.
Bye.